Like my laptop webcam is like there. Also, I don't use it because it's absolute. You're there. I do have time for another episode, but we need to get moving reasonably quickly.
Reasonably quickly.
What do you think about the good endings one?
It's going to be heavy spoilerish if we do that.
We can just literally just include spoilers for these games. Something like that.
Before we begin, the Gamer's Advocate would like to remind you that any episode could contain game spoilers, so watch or listen with discretion. And now your hosts, AMKomnenos, Banana, and Legion. Enjoy the show.
Start the podcast.
Mass Effect ends after the first romance, and that's just, just where I leave it. Best ending.
Just me and Caden.
Before you go to Burmeyer.
It's not me and Kate. That's where Mass Effect 1 ends. Burmeyer, get off the planet, Caden's dead, and then it just fades to the credits. Best ending ever.
I got the secret unlock. Ashley and Caden romance ending. Shepard dies. And the series ends.
Oh, at the very
Jacob takes over as the new Spectre.
Yes.
Oh, I would love that version of Mass Effect where, like, depending on which Shepard you pick, Caden or Ashley is just like they interact with the beacon and you just watch it and they just don't survive. You're like, well, I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
Welcome on in to yet another. Welcome on in to yet another episode of the Gamer's Advocate podcast with the ever-present, ever-mindful BananaHammockRepublic and
Evergreen
AMKomnenos and myself, Legion. Oh boy, we're going to be going over a very, very spoilerish episode, so be warned right now. We're going to be going over some of our favorite endings of games, and maybe some of the endings aren't necessarily happy endings, but they did something to our memory that would have allowed us to say, this is a very, I've already got
such a weird way to say it.
Yeah,
did something to my memory.
Yeah, well, in that time, in that moment, in that
like 10 minutes ago, I mentioned how, obviously this isn't scripted, and Legion just really wanted to drive that point home. This is scripted. We are the worst writers ever.
Yeah. Welcome to yet another episode of the Gamer.
So when Legion messes up that bad, we just start the episode over. Today we're going to be talking about
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gamer's Advocate. We are joined with our friend Legion Grey, normally making the introductions, but today just looking pretty. We are joined by BananaHammockRepublic, and we are joined by me. The name's up there. And today we're talking about our favorite video game endings that stuck with us over time, endings that maybe we didn't always enjoy quite so much, but maybe they stuck with us later and we came to appreciate them. And this is going to be a very spoiler-heavy episode, so you can pretty much presume that if we mention a game and you don't want to know anything about it, it's probably time to skip forward. We'll try and be good for you with the timestamps. How is that?
Dude, I should start recording now. So let me...
He's kidding.
I kind of hope he isn't, because that's much funnier. I just had my best moment ever.
I think that was pretty solid. Although you did, skip half of the topic, but yeah.
Because Legion didn't say it earlier, I thought, actually, shit, are we doing both? Which why I had that moment of, are we?
I'm such a negative person that we can't just do positive stuff.
True.
I'll go first, since nobody asked. But for me, Nier Automata was the best ending I could have ever experienced in any video game whatsoever.
That game has 26 endings.
The true ending, which if you just do the game, if you just completely play it, which forces you to replay the game over and over, that's part of the point of it, is that you're replaying the game. Again, very spoiler heavy episode here. You're replaying the game and you're seeing it from a different perspective. over and over and over. So in one perspective, you're this android defeating robots who were created by an alien species that have attacked the Earth, and now we're trying to create an environment of the Earth so that humans can return. In fact, that's one of our main slogans is, what is it? Humanity unite. I forget the exact slogan now, but these androids
ending stuck with us.
Yeah, that's not the ending necessarily. That's just the slogan of the game. But these humans are not present. That's the point. And so these androids are fighting for what? A cause, a philosophy, a belief of who? These people do not exist. You're starting to figure that out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad we have that spoiler that spoiler one, because there's no way to discuss this completely without revealing the big spoiler. Humans don't exist anymore. They're gone. The androids are fighting for a lie. They are convinced that they are preparing the Earth for humanity to return, and it never will. Humanity is gone, and there are only a select few that know that, and they withhold that information from everybody else. I guess because without that information, they can continue to live with some purpose. But if that information is revealed, these androids who were more or less built for this purpose, to serve humanity, have to figure things out for themselves. And that is a scary place to be in, that it's not just the existence of living for yourself. It's having a purpose and then no longer having that purpose. That's a terrifying experience.
Yeah, Kojima gets a lot of credit, rightly so, for his storytelling and his environments and things, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like what Nier Automata did. Because Nier Automata also takes the very next time you play through, you play as the assistant, well, you think is your assistant of the main character. The main character is this badass android female who's just tackling on everything. Then you realize the second playthrough that the assistant was the one hacking everything in the background as the live events were going on. So without that person, you would not have actually gotten through a quarter of the game. They were doing a lot of things, if not most of the things, sometimes all the things for you when you were incapacitated or whatnot. And then the third time you play, and so it keeps getting more and more unraveled, and you realize you're not even the true character that you were in the first time you played it. There's so much that gets unpacked, and the robots that you fight become this sentient type AI almost, where they're not like this beings that want to just destroy you. They actually have this capacity of we want to be independent. We don't want to fight anything. They have these ideas, and then they adopt ideas that are just wrong because they only know them from the biology of who they were designed to kill. So they take that same mindset and say, "Oh, this is how we make more robots." They're not actually able to do that, but that's what they take on, and then they take on certain personalities that are independent and on their own. People like Pascal, who wants to teach passivity to other robots and says, this is the way. We don't need to fight. We can live our own lives. We don't have to. We want to just be at peace. And look, we're surrounded by a paradise. Why don't we just live here? But that same passivity later on turns into a group of kids that are slaughtered because they choose not to fight. And now he's upset. Now he's mad. So you constantly see this unraveling so yes, you say which ending, but you just have to keep pushing through over and over. And then when you get to the true ending, you realize it's a community affair. We talked about this in a previous episode. It's all about everybody coming together, understanding that we cannot do this alone. It has to be done as a group.
I only have nothing to add because I haven't played it. That's the only reason I've got nothing to add.
That's why I kept going.
I talked to Sniffs about that one pretty recently, and I stand by it. I think everybody should give Nier Automata a chance and do one playthrough of the game. I mean one playthrough of the full game to get that secondary experience with 9S, and then that tertiary experience. Once you get the full story, you don't have to do all 26 endings, but once you get the full story from all the perspectives. I think that's a complete playthrough for me, and I think it's such a great game for that one playthrough. It's rough if you want to go back and do a second, in my opinion, but I think it's an extremely good game in both gameplay and storytelling. It just has some pacing issues if you're going back and trying to replay it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like little upgrades and things like that that lend itself to also telling the story. It's like you don't think that they do, but they just do. Everything is calculated and on purpose. So when you get to the ending, you're like, it's so cumulative that you're like, all of this I couldn't have done without any of this that was excluded, but yet here we are, you know. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful game. It's easily my best ending of any video game I've ever played. But, yeah.
Then I'm going to pull us forward onto the next one. So I'm going to mention 3 now, but I'm only actually going to talk properly about the first one. So the main focus of this is going to be The Last of Us Part 1. But the games that remind me, or the games that make me feel a similar thing, which I'm not going to address right now, which I wrote down, were the original Red Dead Redemption and also the Shadow of the Colossus. And I think all of these games have a similar feeling. The endings aren't the same by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a similar feeling for them. I think The Last of Us Part 1, we see the ending of what the story is actually about. So we have these 2 survivors. We have Joel, let's just call him the father figure. So we've got Joel, father figure to his surrogate daughter, Ellie, traversing their way through this post-apocalyptic zombie hellscape. Joel starts off the game by losing his daughter, and over time he generates this new and full relationship with Ellie and becomes a genuine daughter figure to him. And the entire course of the game, you're bringing Ellie across the world, realizing that she's someone who seems to be at least somewhat immune to what's actually going on around her. She may not be the only one, but she's certainly immune to what's actually happening to everyone else. And we're going to take her all the way to this lab, and we're going to try and find out what we can do to save the human race using who she is and her blood. And we get there and find out we're not going to need just her blood, we're actually going to need her life. We're going to have to kill Ellie for this to happen. And Joel doesn't let them do it. And Joel is going to happily go through, and he's going to set events in motion for the next game as well. He's going to kill the surgeon. He's going to kill the other doctor. He's going to kill an old friend. He's going to kill everyone in between him and getting his new daughter out of that situation. And then he's going to lie to her about what he did. That there was no way that the doctors could have used her blood. She was unconscious the whole time. And she doesn't know what's happened. He's going to lie to her and tell her, nope, it just couldn't work out. That's why we're leaving. He's not going to say that I've just killed everyone to save you. Does she believe him? Almost certainly not. Because why on earth would she have been let go? But you've got a game that's about a zombie outbreak. You've got a game that's going to end with the cure for the zombie outbreak. But it wasn't about the zombies in the first place. It was about Joel and Ellie. And the game ends as a story of Joel and Ellie being so much more important than that outbreak. And I think it is the single greatest video game ending I've ever seen in my life. To the point that I didn't even play the whole game because I got bored. I played about half of the game, and then I just watched the rest of it. Mostly the cutscenes and then some of the gameplay as well. And already there was enough between the characters for me to love them, and for that ending to hit you in the gut as you begin to realize that I don't know how I felt about that. Do I agree with what he did? Probably not. Would I have agreed with what the doctors were going to do? Probably not. Am I happy with what he did? I think I might be. But I'm not happy with myself for being happy about it. Yeah. It's a delightfully confusing ending. Whilst being very straightforward to understand, it's just emotionally confusing.
Yeah. I think I agree overwhelmingly. I think The Last of Us Part 1 had an incredible ending. I personally don't know that we needed a Part 2. I think that story accomplished what it was trying to do. And I think the collection of games you've suggested all have that similar feeling of what amounts to a hollow victory, where you reach your ending, you accomplish maybe not your goal, but what you thought was your goal. And in The Last of Us, it's reaching, the Fireflies and bringing Ellie to the people who might be able to make a cure. That was the goal. there was no guarantee that there would be a cure, but your goal was to just make sure that she got there safely. And, you know, the Shadow of the Colossus, your goal was to beat all of the Colossuses. Colossi? The big things. And then you get the ending, and you realize that the whole reason you were doing that, your motivation for going out and fighting these incredibly challenging enemies, was you were trying to bring your partner back to life. And you've sacrificed yourself, essentially, to do that. And it's not even until the very, very end, the end of those cutscenes, that you realize you did succeed. She has come back. Prior to that, you think you've just been tricked into freeing this demon, and she's still dead. It's a very, like, yay, I did it. Yeah. That kind of ending where you realize, you know, what you had been pursuing the entire time was not really what you wanted. And it's a unique ending. It's not an ending I want for everything, but in those moments where it pops up and it's done well, it's kind of satisfying. It's definitely an ending that sticks with you. That's for sure.
I think just to piggyback onto it, and I will spoil it now, even though it wasn't the main topic of the discussion, the Red Dead Redemption 1 ending, it also just leaves you with that really bitter taste. And I'm not talking about the death of John. That actually isn't that bad an ending. It's the fact that the cycle doesn't end there. That should have been, from the good perspective of, okay, this cycle of just murder and death and bloodshed, it should have ended there if we were going to go on and have a better world afterwards. And it's the fact that you realize that it doesn't. And not only that, but you have to go on and do it yourself. You know, the game doesn't just tell you this happens later. No, they're going to make you go and play that epilogue. And you have to do this. That's going to ruin another generation of lives. Almost certainly, even if Jack never gets caught. He knows he did it. And he might have thought he might have known he was doing what he did for the right reasons. But that's going to change you. And you're going to be a different person.
Yeah.
And Jack's going into now, the early 20th century as a murdering cowboy? Probably not the right time to be doing that.
Yeah, so when they said Red Dead 2, I thought, like, where are they going to go with this? And then they went backwards in time. It was like, oh, I would have never thought that. But yeah, I thought the same thing. You're going into the next century unequipped for the environment. Yeah.
That, by the way, is one of the things that I am just always amazed by, is how did they make Red Dead Redemption 2 possibly more beloved than Red Dead Redemption 1? That still blows my mind that it was that good.
And now the question is, what is Red Dead? What is going to be Red Dead 3? Is it going to be Arthur's grandfather going into the Civil War?
We have Red Dead Primal in like 40 generations.
The worst chronology ever. It's just prequel after prequel.
I mean, but go with it. I mean, if you've done it and it worked, why not?
I would have said, I would say at this point, don't. You've stuck that landing incredibly. How did you do it? But I would have said the same thing after Red Dead 1.
I know.
I would have said the same thing. Don't do anything with this story. It's perfect. They've showed they could do 2 as well. Maybe they could do a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6. Maybe. But if they never did anything else with that franchise, I'd be very happy.
Let them cook.
Let them cook as people our age say.
Did you have and I have a point to this question, but did you have a favorite enemy in The Last of Us?
The one that stuck with me is the clickers.
Okay. Well, I was going to say zombie or human. Which one would it have been? But you clearly zombie.
Oh, the humans are worse.
Okay.
Because they should know better.
That's where I'm going with that. So it's like, was there one that felt more satisfying as far as your encounter?
Zombies more satisfying to kill.
Yeah. Zombies definitely more satisfying. The humans are a unfortunate necessity.
Yeah. And also it comes with even though I know many of you are in the wrong, not all of them. Well, but actually I think pretty much everyone in that world is in the wrong, but there's varying degrees of it. I can tell you, let me clean out a disheveled city hall of zombies. I will happily do that. I don't really want to do the ending. I don't want to shoot that surgeon. No.
Well, the reason why I bring that up, because that's what empowers that sense of that hit me harder. That hit me a little bit more to my soul, my being, than just a zombie who doesn't know anything, doesn't know any better. But because we're talking about an RPG, I think the human elements are there because they show you the destruction of what mankind can do and their capacity for doing bad things, and your ability to independently think that this is not the way to move forward, in life, in culture.
The reason that the humans are in there and the reason the humans have this really antagonistic role in the story is because 2001: A Space Odyssey is a better sci-fi film than Independence Day. Aliens are boring. They can be fun. It can be exciting just for a few minutes, to see things blowing things up. That's great fun. And it is fun to see the hordes of zombies sprinting towards the screen. But humans are just more interesting if you want to have a full story, because you can understand that. I can't understand the alien motivations. I can understand what they're trying to do, okay, but I can't really identify with them inside. I don't know exactly what they're thinking, especially if you have something like a hive mind or something like that. I can't understand it. But the humans, I can exactly.
I think fundamentally, there's not anything you can take away from the experience of Independence Day and then bring to the rest of your life. You're not going to translate that into something meaningful for your interactions with other people. And The Last of Us is very much a game about the interactions between people. It's what humanity becomes when they're put into a high pressure situation where survival is in question. It's very much the purpose of that game is not a zombie shooter game. The purpose of that game is an investigation into humanity when it's up against a wall.
And it's also why I would say that, and I'm not really going to spoil it here beyond just saying some nouns, but the reason that I found the ending of Game of Thrones disappointing wasn't because of the battle with the zombies, which was disappointing in and of itself. It was the fact that every human storyline was a letdown at the end. That was the thing that sucked. The battle with the zombies was a disappointing spectacle. The disappointment of the resolution to the human stories, that was actually somewhat soul-crushing.
That actually is going to take us into my response. And since we've had two wonderful endings, I'm going to share a terrible one.
Yes, let's go.
And it actually, it does tie back to kind of that collection that you had brought up. I'm talking about the ending to Final Fantasy 15. That ending sucked in both gameplay and storytelling. Because the ending, as you're approaching it, you confront, your villain who you've grown to learn more about over the course of the game. And he separates you from the three companions you've had the entire time. Why?
Yeah.
This game wasn't just about Noctis this entire time. This game has been about Noctis and his friends. And now they are sitting the final battle out. Why? That's such a just impossible to understand decision for me. To just take 3 of the 4 characters you've been playing as out of the game for the last battle. And then you get that same kind of hollow ending because you've come to understand the villain and you come to understand that he was actually a victim. And you are essentially just putting down a victim because he has grown too powerful and threatens the people who made him a victim. It's a hollow ending. I beat the powerful guy, but I start to see his point of view, and I wish I didn't have to kill him. So it's that hollow ending with no satisfaction from the experience of beating it.
You also don't get the post-ending satisfaction either, because what happens to your main character is just so, oh, okay, well, no one's happy. This is just everything that this game is built to. Has just
and it's another one of those endings where like you've lost so much along the way that there's no way that can be a happy ending. The best you can do is closure, and that's for me. It wasn't enough.
It's an interesting game as well. I think I completely agree with you about the battle decision. It's a mystifying decision because you travel.
That was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
You travel the entire game with a 4-person party. And I don't know if Legion's played Final Fantasy 15. I would assume no. It's a game where you don't even have to choose your party. You are always playing as these 4, and you are traversing the world map always as these 4, and you are driving place to place always as these 4, and you are camping always as these 4. I can't overstate it enough. It is always as these 4, except for these little mini moments in the story when one will leave, and you genuinely feel like a bit like you're like a limb is missing. It's like, hold on, where's my sword boy? Who's gonna cook now? You really feel as though something is missing. And it's a game that's so strongly and heavily about the journey and the investment that you make with these characters that when they miss the ending, and they miss it on multiple levels, it's a massive tonal loss, the ending, that it just leaves you just flat. And can work, not here.
Yeah. They chose to deviate from the pattern of using Uematsu's music to pick Stand By Me as the theme, and you finish the game alone. What the fuck? It's such a thematic miss. Like, why?
And that's one of those things, isn't it, where you think, do you not understand your own game? And the answer is, surely they do. They must do. So why did they throw it away? Yeah. We just liked the song and that entire mechanic we built the game around. We just liked those. The real goal was that ending. It's just it's a series of decisions that just leave you wondering what the intent behind it was, because it's so clearly the conscious intent, isn't it, to subvert that theme that you built throughout the game. And in that moment, you must stand alone. But they didn't earn it in any way. They earned the exact opposite. They earned a moment with all of us together for that last time. And then you took it away.
Yeah, silence in the credits, and then suddenly Party All the Time by Eddie Murphy comes on. Party all the time, party all the time.
I'm honestly like, that's thematically about as appropriate as what they ended up going with. So
it was a game as well, so much about the journey and all that time you spent together. I mean, it's a game that's famously what it is, a bit like The Last of Us, where it's about the time that you spend with these characters all the way through.
It's a road trip.
Yeah, it's Road Trip Simulator 15, and it's fucking great at that. And it's a game where the ending, I think, would always have been the least important part if they'd have gotten it right. Because what you would ultimately have ended up with is you've ended up with a game for people who realize that the more important part of having sex is the lovemaking and not the orgasm at the end. It's that in video game form. But what they actually ended up making was an afternoon of lovemaking ended up with just dust, ending with the gommage. It's just pathetic, and it's just really underwhelming.
Exfoliating?
I feel like you really had to stretch to make that work.
No, I think actually that's entirely appropriate. Yeah. I really do, because that's what that game was. It's just...
Oh, no, I agree. I just feel like that metaphor was crammed in there a little too forcefully.
Please don't say that. You're lucky, by the way, I didn't do the full visual, because I was going to end like with the phrase just jizzing dust. And we didn't actually have to end up there.
No, I feel like dust communicated exactly what was going on in your head very effectively.
I'm so much fun.
The endings for God of War, the rebooted ones, the more modern ones, the last two.
It's one of those few games I was thinking, I hope we don't spoil. Yeah. Fuck.
No. It's I'm not going to actually say the details of it, but the ending of it is just an ending, and so that's
now the viewers know it has an ending.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's definitely the kind of ending that says, "Wow, that was a great game," but you don't. Yeah. The ending is more like, "Yeah, I see some things here. It revealed some things here," but it doesn't actually feel like it accomplished the ending itself. It's just an ending, and it feels fulfilled, but it's definitely not one of those wow, this is, a great ending. It's just more storytelling is what it's doing. And so it's really interesting that it's really a mid ending, but the game itself is far superior to what it's trying to. It's more or less like it's tapered, like it's a decent beginning, decent ending, but all the content is right in the middle, and that's really where you want it. So unlike God of War 3, God of War 3, the original, the OG ones, that was an ending.
I haven't played the God of Wars. I played God of War 3 actually, oddly enough, but I just played it like once through. Probably in a time when I wasn't really like into it. It was just like a bit like a quiet game to play for 2 hours or so after work because it was just fun. I can't remember the ending at all. Yeah. And the reboots, I haven't got around to them yet.
God of War 3, you are so mad at Zeus. You pummel him so hard that the screen is from Zeus's perspective, and it's just blood.
I'm so sorry. How am I not supposed to do a sexual metaphor off the back of that? Continue.
It's just blood and blood and blood, and
develop the smallest amount of self-control.
When has that ever been indicated that it's going to happen?
That's why I said develop.
You're like the Final Fantasy.
You don't have it.
You're like the Final Fantasy 15 developers. You haven't seen the theme. This isn't going to improve.
Yeah.
But I do actually have, just to avoid the criticism that I'm always the negative one, I do have a game with a great ending. And it's, I would say probably one that isn't tremendously well appreciated, or at least doesn't get the credit I think it deserves. Halo Reach. I think Halo Reach does such a great job of driving home a very meaningful message at the end of the story. There are definitely points along the story that I don't think are executed particularly well, and the one that springs to mind is Kat's death. Kat's death is stupid. It feels like, oh, we forgot to mention she died. How do we rapidly inject that into the story we're trying to tell? But I think ultimately, like, the takeaway from the story of Reach is that a soldier's life, they live in service, and that sacrifice that they have to make is brutal every time. And it's probably not what a lot of people will see when they think of a Halo game, but I think Halo Reach almost is an anti-war war simulation game. I think you play through the campaign and you see each of these characters fighting for what they truly believe in, fighting for something that's important to them, and they make these sacrifices that they think will help. And there's nothing that can change what happens. George sacrifices himself believing he saved the planet he was born on. He doesn't. Emil sacrifices himself trying to give you just enough time to deliver the payload. He gets there, you don't get away. Your leader sacrifices himself just to make it that much more likely that you'll get to your destination. And you get there, and you have to stay behind, because you're a soldier, and that's what soldiers do. It's a heartbreaking story. It is really heart-wrenching when you try to translate that to the real world. Because, yeah, these are Spartans. They don't really exist. Soldiers do. And these stories aren't so unbelievable that they haven't really happened.
I think the unbelievability of Halo, it comes from the setting, doesn't it? It's the sci-fi, it's the guns that you're using, it's the fact that you're fighting aliens instead of humans, whatever it might be. It's the fact that the Needler exists and things like that. Yeah. But the foundations of the story and the individual arcs that these individual characters go through, they hit all too real.
Yeah.
All we have to do is transpose them out of a video game and into a real person, and this can very much be. But what would happen to someone?
The ending of Wolfenstein. No.
Hey, I'm taking the next one. So I was gonna I was going to pick a sad ending initially, and I was like, oh, we've had a few of those in a row. So the one that I was going to say, I'm not going to go into it, but I think it's a very, very good ending, is I really like the ending of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I think it's a terrific ending. But I'm actually going to go with Final
Play the
Fantasy.
parting glass over ending credits, I'm going to cry. Like,
And
that's a guarantee.
I'm going to have to see Stede Bonnet. So I'm going to go with Final Fantasy 8, 7, 10, all of them when you get to whatever the equivalent of Final Fantasy VII's Disc 3 is. And I think it's a classic problem that you find in a lot of RPG-type games, and I'm seeing it now in Clair Obscur, I'm seeing it in classic Final Fantasy, I'm seeing it in Ni no Kuni. The world opens up, the airship is at my hand, and I can go anywhere I want, and I can do what I want. I have always despised that part of any RPG. When you give me the open world and tell me go and do what I want before the point of no return, I think that is genuinely harmful to a game. Especially because these games are so often tightly wound narratively that even a game like 7, which we use as an archetypal open world, it is and it isn't. You step out of Midgar to go onto the open world so that you can walk to Calm. So that you can walk out onto the open world and walk to the Chocobo Ranch. So that you can walk out to the open world and run across the swamps. We're leading you down corridors, but in a very beautiful way, which is what good game design is. It's not a criticism. But all the way through until we're going to go and fight Sephiroth, the world is this beautiful path. And now, what am I going to do? Go hang around with Lucretia for a while? Am I going to go and do Wutai and polish things off over there for a while? If it's 8, am I going to go play Triple Triad for the next 40 hours and try and get all these cards? Yeah, is the answer. But this also means that by the time I actually go over and fight Sephiroth, Ultimecia, whatever the boss at the end of 10 is, it's Sin. By the time I get there, the narrative focus has been so lost that I almost don't care anymore. And I feel a bit as though I'm just cleaning the kitchen. I'm cleaning the kitchen, and now I just do that one last thing, which is just dust off that final counter. That's it. I'm just doing that.
So ready to fight you when you said the endings of Final Fantasy 8 and 7, and I was like, those don't belong in the same category. Those are completely different endings. But because no, I do agree that the open worldness in Final Fantasy games typically comes just before the final fight, the conclusion. And that is such a huge disconnect from the narrative because everything feels urgent. And now it's time to go breed chocobos. It's time to go play a card game. Time to go dodge lightning 200 times. It's like,
and if that's not urgent,
ignore the urgency.
Yeah, if that's not urgent, going and stopping Sephiroth, going and stopping whatever it might be, nothing is. And now the game has lost all focus. And weirdly enough, I would honestly probably suggest it's actually good game design because we're now giving you access to the world, you get to go and do all these things you meant to do, and we allowed you throughout the game to not have to worry about this stuff. We didn't have to fill it with mini games all the way through, disrupting the narrative then. And we do have to disrupt the narrative at some point, but I just feel as though it takes me away from the game. And I'm the kind of player who actually doesn't want to go and do all that stuff. By the time I get to that point, I'm ready to go. And I actually love the ending to 7. The Northern Cave, I think, is fantastic. It has one of the best songs in the game in Judgment Day, that one when you first arrive. It's fucking incredible. There's a series of great bosses, there's awkward mechanics, the enemies, you have to give them the elixirs. There's some cool last-minute materia to go and find. It's really fun, it's really well designed. But exactly as you pinpointed, it's just that loss of focus before that it almost doesn't matter how good that is, which is how I end up lumping 7 and 8 together, and even 10, just because the focus is lost. And to me, that is genuinely an enormous sin at that point, which really pulls me out of the game. Again, it's probably better game design to have it that way because I think it's better than the alternative, but I still don't like it.
It would be nice if you could blend your game design and your narrative together to say, like, you have a break from the story. There's some reason that everything has been put on hold. Now's your opportunity to go do all the things that you would enjoy if the world weren't on fire. and now you have that opportunity. You get to do all these side quests and these mini games. But the fact that there is no kind of break, and it feels like if it showed up early in the game, you'd miss it. You'd miss something.
Yeah.
It kind of has to be just before the ending, so you have that late game opportunity to go back everywhere and do whatever it is you need to. And you also go back. So if it happened earlier in the game, it means you can't utilize places you haven't been to yet in those side quests and minigames.
Yeah, we can't give you the airship in Act 1, because what the hell are we going to do in Act 3? Like, we need progression. And weirdly enough, the way you were describing it, it sounded a lot like an ideal way would be the way that Morrowind does this, which is always the game actually saying for a while, oh yeah, the main quest, come back in like 3 days' time. Yeah, go and do your thing, go and have fun, go and do some side questing. And I'm not a huge fan of that either, because it does break up the pacing. But again, I don't know if there's a good way to do it. I think this is where you're seeing my preference for tight narrative-driven games rather than open-world games as a whole. I would generally prefer, for me personally, I'm glad that actually you all have these different things you can go and do in the game, but for me personally, the ideal game made for me, it would never have given me that open-world opportunity at all. It would have just brought me through the game, and I'd have been led pretty much on rails. And then at the end of Disc 2 in Final Fantasy, I'd have plugged in Disc 3 and we'd have been flying to that cave. And we'd have had a dramatic cutscene as we land in there. I wouldn't have flown there. The game would have flown me there, dropped me in. And that ladder to come back up...
let you back on the ship.
Exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, there ain't no ladder. And I think that you're seeing there more of my preference for games rather than you're seeing a suggestion for a way to improve this method of game making. Sorry, Legion, I cut you off.
No. It's just that when Banana was describing his, like, what we would prefer in that type scenario, I think you do see that in Claire. That's what I was going to say. To piggyback with what you were saying with the JRPGs and how they do that and how they abandon. Now suddenly you have the open world. There is that story, and I just hesitate to comment about too much because Banana hasn't played it. But there is a very narrative reason why the story opens up in that context, because the world has changed in a fundamental level.
Well, allow me to immediately lightly spoil Clear Obscure. Like it'll be fairly light, okay? So for anyone who doesn't want any spoilers at all, don't listen to the next 30 seconds or so. As you are playing through the game, as it should be in any grand mission like this when you're playing an RPG, it actually doesn't feel like you're going to succeed in your goal. So actually there is no rush. So in that way, the game does allow you to take your time a bit more, and it doesn't feel weird. The problem with Final Fantasy VII is when I see that meteor in the sky, I know that I'm mega powered. I know that I've beat Jenova before. I know that if anyone's going to go and take down Sephiroth, it's actually going to be me, and I reckon I can do it. Claire doesn't always feel that way. Claire, it feels a bit more, I hope so, but I'm here for the journey and we'll see what happens before the end. And that, I think, does permit you.
But again, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, Kama. I'm just saying is that I think that there were story reasons, but based on what Banana was saying, I was like, that meets that definition, actually. But you know
almost like I have good ideas.
Yeah. But my second point was when you were saying that, Kama, about like how you kind of prefer that on rails after that certain point. You know, what game sprang to mind was Mass Effect 3. That's exactly what happens.
My favorite Mass Effect.
That's exactly what happens. So certain things happen. You think, damn it, I did what I was supposed to do. And now I can't. Kind of to a lesser extent, one does it, but it's more of like a loss of a crewmate. But in 3, you've done everything you possibly can do, and nothing happened.
An amazing thing with 3 as well is they get the quantity of side stuff right. That's what I like, for me personally. Because Final Fantasy VII, that side stuff involves breeding chocobos. You can't do that in an hour. You're going to need to spend time, and you need RNG on your side. You need all sorts. If you want to do that properly, it's going to be a long time. And there's big rewards at the end if you do it properly. Mass Effect 3, much simpler. Go to this planet, do this thing, you're done. Go and do the N7 op, you're done. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's clean. It's not executed perfectly. I remember the quest log is awful. But it's clear and simple, and it's a simple, straightforward game. That is, weirdly enough, pretty much my perfect game. I think it really is. It's not my favorite game, oddly enough, but if there were to be a game that were designed for me, that's not far off.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a mission that when you get it in Mass Effect 3 that feels off somehow, the timing. Like I always feel like I got there just at the right time. Like you don't get like a distress beacon
The Citadel
hours and hours before. Well,
DLC mission that is injected into the game.
yeah, exactly. But even the Grissom Academy, the one where the Ardak Yakshi, you always feel like you got those missions as kind of like, hey, check it out. There may be something going. But when you get there, suddenly you feel like you just got there, like you just got there in time or something.
The pacing in Mass Effect 3 base game is very, very good. It's still one of the most like tightly written games I think that's ever been produced, considering how much it does. It's very tightly written. There's not much fat on the bones. Citadel DLC is the exact opposite, but wonderfully self-aware in the process. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? It's supposed to be. And as long as you manage to maintain that in your mind of this is not non-canon, but it's its own little thing. It's its own little snow globe in the world of Mass Effect 3. It works.
That was my fault. I thought when you said that, Banana, I thought you were talking about when the Citadel attack. I thought that, I was like, that seems like it was right on time.
That's one of my favorite parts of the game. Really like that.
I was just going to the Citadel.
I think Mass Effect 3 is a great one, but I think Cobb has said like it's his perfect game that required 2 full games of build-up to deliver. So like I think it's pretty clear that it takes a lot to get to that point, and Mass Effect delivered, but like it had a lot to build off of, and obviously it's the same developers doing the building there, so they get full credit. But that's probably why we've seen so few perfect games like that.
Can we talk about Mass Effect 3? Because I never found the ending disappointing. Even the original cut, I thought there was nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong, they oversold it. Or at least, I actually don't know how much they oversold it and how much we oversold it to ourselves in what we were expecting. And it was a bit of a shame when in the multiple versions of the ending, just the light source changed, the light color. But if you're playing one playthrough of that game, getting one ending from it, I thought there was nothing inherently wrong with that ending. And the idea, and it was something that I thought actually mattered towards the end, was being told that what we did before didn't matter. We've talked about this before, because there were only 3 endings. 4, I guess, technically, after the patching of it, but 3. I don't think that was ever supposed to matter. Some decisions are bigger than you. Some things go beyond what you did with your friends. And all those things that happened on the way, they were what your choices did. It was what happened to Mordin that you caused. It was what happened to Legion that you chose. That was where your decision shone. But the actual end of the game, I was kind of okay with the fact the decision for what to do with the Reapers was bigger than the decisions you'd made beforehand and stood alone as its own decision. Because they existed as such an enormous entity outside the scale of what you were doing that I didn't think it made sense to me that what I'd done in the previous game, whether or not I'd stolen the collector base, whether or not the genophage was cured or whatever, I couldn't find a way that in my head it made sense for that to affect the Reapers. So I didn't actually mind the ending at all. I was actually really pleased with it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had an issue with the ending, and I'm not sure I completely agree with what you were saying there to say that like the decision with the Reapers was bigger, because and I might be misinterpreting this, but it sounds like you're almost suggesting that they're separate decisions from everything you've made up to that point, and they're really not. But it's not a decision that hinged on the previous decisions you've made. So you go through that playing as Shepard. You become that character. You make those decisions that suit you as a person. And that defines the allies you bring with you into Mass Effect 3. And then you get to that final decision, and you're weighing that decision based on how it will impact the friends you've made, because you've developed relationships with these people as you've progressed through this story. So you choose the endings based on what you think will have the best outcome for the version of the universe that you've created with your previous decisions.
It's a better way of saying it.
I don't care if the Rachni want to weigh in on which of those three options I chose, they get to exist because I chose to let the Rachni Queen go in Mass Effect 1. And now I am choosing the universe that they get to live in Mass Effect 3. They're not independent decisions. I'm the same person I was making both of those decisions. It's just I have to make that choice, and I'm the only one who gets to.
Sounds so psychotic at the end. Like, up until then, I'm on board. Oh, he's gone a bit mad, Queen. But no,
I am the only one in a position to make that choice, not nobody else gets to take this from me.
I think actually you summed it up better, yeah, because the way I was phrasing it was that it's just a standalone decision in and of itself, which is still how I view it, but yeah, it's very much colored and framed. The thing that you're ultimately going to choose to do, it's framed by the experiences you've had with these characters in the past, by the world that you created, and it is weirdly mostly you creating the world, because this is one of the most hero story games you'll ever find. It's Shepard is this unique person who only they are capable of, in the world that exists there, only they are capable of doing this. So yeah, I do view it as a completely standalone decision. The way that you said you might have been misinterpreting, no, I think you interpreted that correctly, but then you went on and expanded upon it much better, which was it is a standalone decision. What you chose to do with the Rachni, what you chose to do with Rex, etc., has no bearing mechanically on the decision that you're now making. Nothing happened behind the scenes that has now gate-kept this. I will always have those three options. But now the decision that I'm going to make is heavily based by my internal calculations taking place based upon, what I did with the Rachni. And is Rex alive? And these are small factors because there's so goddamn many by the end of the game. But I'm thinking, what is best for this world that we've made? And doing that mathematics there based upon all of those. So yeah, I think actually you just went on and explained it much better.
I've only ever been critical of the way they sometimes did the story of the ending, because when you have the child at the very end, it's a little overdone. Obviously the child dying in the shuttle should affect you. And when you do storytelling, you typically do it in threes. And so when they had 1, 2, 3 dreams and then you see the child again, it's a little overdoing it. So if you have like just one dream, and obviously it stayed with Shepard, so that's something in your mind, you're not going to forget that. But if you do it a third time, now you're trying to tell a story with that child. So I wouldn't have done it a third time at all. You meet the child, and then one other time, and then the last person you talk to, where the Reaper mindset in the Citadel is actually either Caden or Ash, because that's somebody we knew, and we're gonna be
I would like to know if you're saying it's the one who you left on Vermeer,
right,
or the one you saved.
No, the one you left on Vermeer, because then you know you're being manipulated, you know this, but yet you have to somewhat listen. You're not in a state where you can do anything about this, but you have to listen to it. Now, who's the other choice? You could also choose the elusive man. Well, obviously you're not going to listen to anything they're going to say. Why are we picking this random child that we had no real communication with whatsoever? Why are we just suddenly listening to them? We should have some visceral reason to go back storytelling wise. So I always thought that they missed out on that. It should either be Caden or Ashley at that point, and then tell us the situation.
I thought the child was interesting the first time I was playing it, up until the end. I did like that we had this little representation that Shepard's actually been through a lot, and I was enjoying seeing those dreams. The trouble is, seeing the child at the end then devalued the dreams for me on future playthroughs. It just felt stupid in some way. It just took away from it. I actually didn't want any of that. Honestly, if I was going to talk to anyone on the bridge, and I don't think this is the best idea, but it's what I wanted, I just wanted to straight up talk with Harbinger. I wanted to straight up talk with Harbinger, taking me back to that conversation we had with Sovereign.
Insignificant human.
I thought you had a soundboard for a second then. And again, I don't even necessarily think it's the best idea, but it's what I wanted,
I think that having the representation of that final decision being laid on you coming from a child is a much more subtle form of manipulation than Caden or Ash being the one to deliver it to you. Because Caden or Ash, I feel like it's too overt. It's something you'll see through very, very quickly. But this child being presented to you, kind of conjuring the image of, what you've been working to protect this whole time, and then giving you these three options to kind of really, really build on that guilt you feel about the weight of your decisions. I think it's a very effective way of driving home that manipulative feeling in a much more subtle way than, your dead friend telling you, look what you did.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that none of them are subtle. Whether it be the child, whether it be Legion, whether it be Caden, Ashley, whether it be Harbinger, like none of it's subtle. The
Now
Harbinger,
you know who
yeah,
Tom would leave behind on Vermeer between the three of us.
Tom's Freudian slip.
So that's about all we've had time for today. It's been. Yeah, I think it's a part of the game when subtlety didn't really matter. Just because of where we are, how far we've come, the loss of Anderson prior to this. It's just subtlety's out the window now. Yeah. All of a sudden, we are literally walking alone. No one is left to stand by me at this point in the game. Yeah, nailed it. So I don't know if subtlety ever actually came into it. I just...
Because, like I said, if you have that conversation with the elusive man and you're actually starting to get him to pull in a little bit, it's like, no, Shepard, no, I think I'm right. You got him to crack a little bit. So you could have that conversation with him. Anderson would just feel like, this is wrong, this is bad. And then the other side of it, like I said before, if you did the child, we've already had the story with the child. We don't know who this person... This is clearly not that. You're manipulating me because they're in my visions, they're in my dreams. How do you even know this? The Reaper shouldn't know this. So that's why I said we do know about Ashley and we do know about Caden, and we're so detached from that that's the last grasp of the Citadel's Reaper trying to pull us in. That's why
to give you an idea of how often Ashley survives my playthroughs, I was just thinking, but then they'd have to get Caden's voice actor to come back, which is
Karth?
Stupid.
You mean Karth Onesi?
Yeah. But I honestly think like there wasn't a particularly elegant way to do it. As soon as they decided that was the form they were going to take, there was almost no way that was going to be particularly interesting. I think that's just why I would have wanted Harbinger. I quite like the idea that you are just facing off with Harbinger now, and he's trying to outsmart you, but just fucking brutally. There's no trying to persuade. There's just you're wrong. I want that.
I think, and maybe this is just me trying to rationalize why I enjoy the ending and make it fit. But I think
I love the ending. Yeah,
the idea that there's still they've tried manipulation. They've tried, the elusive man has tried to convince you. That didn't work, and now they have this I will say more subtle version of the manipulation that's trying to happen with the child. It still kind of highlights that the Reapers are desperate. This is their moment of desperation. They don't know how to convince you. They're trying whatever they can, and the only thing that they think will work is manipulation. So they're trying all these different forms of it. So having this child that maybe you don't have this knowledge of, but you have a connection to, because you're a soldier, you protect humanity, and children are the most vulnerable part of that. So your whole goal is to protect this child. It seems like it is more subtle, but still conveys that desperation of I just throw whatever we got at them. Throw children, just anything innocent.
Sorry, to pull us back 20 podcasts.
Throw
Apollo
children.
Creed.
Yeah.
We'll just get...
It feels
like
good.
Patrick Bet David, who I've had the displeasure to learn exists. We could have anyone. I'd love to have seen them actually take a really out of left field figure. I knew Buzz Aldrin was in the game. I didn't know what role he played. We could have had him there. Yeah. They could have really just Macho Man Randy Savage
as Keith David.
Keith David.
This was very deep in the memory here, the lore, but unfortunately the child is a big part of why people go with the Shepard truly died or became indoctrinated in Mass Effect 2. And therefore that's how they know our mindset, our head. And that's why I don't like the child there. It's because it gives that credence. I don't like it.
I did enjoy the indoctrination theory. In the end, it was shut down, which ends it. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was good fun for a while, like just to listen to something that was a bit different and to realize that there were interpretations of the ending that were possible. It was almost a shame that it got shut down, I thought, because it would have just been nice to have kept the debate just open a little bit around it. It was never when I believed it. It didn't seem to feel right.
But that was
But I
a
like
big
just having
leverage.
that bit of doubt.
That whole child
I
thing,
think that's-
how the Reapers know us. That's why.
Yeah.
I think that's why they never shut down the theory for Final Fantasy VIII that Squall dies,
Right.
because that makes the ending they actually gave us almost make sense. So yeah, this is just what's happening in Squall's comatose dreams before he slowly fades away.
What?
That's why it
TV
doesn't
show?
make sense.
What TV show was it that famously ended with it was just a dream, or it was just?
Oh,
God. In my head, I'm thinking it's Cheers. It's not fucking Cheers.
not
is it?
Cheers.
It can't be, because then Frasier would be in the dream as well, and that would just be.
I know in
weird.
Seinfeld they just end up in the way they started, kind of, and they
Yeah, but as
also
they
ended
should,
up in
'cause
jail. Yeah.
Famously, it was a show about nothing.
Super Mario 2? I mean, it's not a TV show, but that was the ending of Super Mario.
Oh, the Bob Newhart show. That was it.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's going
Fucking
back.
hell.
That's going back.
Yeah. Which we'd love. I didn't watch when it came out.
Oh, so we haven't revisited our music. We did earworms, but man, favorite or best TV show sitcom theme song. There's one answer for me.
Go for it.
Cheers.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of
Okay.
other themes now, and all I can think of is where everybody knows your name. Damn it!
That's a fantastic choice.
Hill Street Blues was a good one, but
The Office has a very good one, the UK Office, which is the Handbags and the Glad Rags. It's just a small piano snippet of that, and I think it plays over the credits as well. That's a very good one. Oh, and the In-Betweeners, which has a lot of music by The Cure all throughout, which is just it's an odd choice, but it's The Cure, so fucking great.
that's all right.
I feel like that fits the In-Betweeners.
Yeah. You have one, Banana?
No.
Yeah. So 2 votes for Cheers.
That seems to be a running theme on this channel, where like we'll pose different options, and whatever Legion suggests becomes the default. So if you don't choose, Legion wins.
My favorite is going back and watching. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the Mass Effect tier list ones. It was something like Legion gave someone a B, I gave them a D, Banana gave them a C, and we said, okay, that's a C, and then it came up on the screen, B.
I'll have to go back and look at that because I don't think so. I don't think that's accurate. You're misinterpreting.
I'm
that.
afraid it's very accurate.
You're gonna have to go back and tell me where that was because I don't think
I
that's
ain't doing
accurate.
shit.
That's right.
You're doing
That's
yourself.
right. Don't do your homework or don't comment.
Just a big B on the screen, and then half of it fades out. It ends up turning into an F, and then spelling out "fuck you." I remember that conversation. I don't know if it's the same one that Com's talking about.
Yeah, I seem to remember it wasn't, but I will not go and check.
So we have gotten very far off on the that video game endings discussion.
In KOTOR, there's in KOTOR 2, there's all the companions say apathy is death, and individually, even the little robot guy goes beep 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 beep. Apathy is death. I feel like that's where we're at.
I'm sorry, I
Apathy
just
is death.
remember what the greatest sitcom theme actually is.
Okay.
I don't know if it counts as a sitcom, but it's probably The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh my god.
Now that I think about it, it's not my favorite, but greatest is probably that.
All right, bye.
Legion hates West Philly.
R.I.P. Gamers Advocate.
And that was just simply a remix of his song of Parents Just Don't Understand. Yeah.
Was it?
Same thing.
Brilliant.
Same song.
You guys remember
Come on,
what
Banana.
this
Do it for
episode
Philly,
was about?
Banana. Do it for Philly.
I'm not rapping. That's what I will do for Philly, not rap.
I've got a feeling that's a phrase you've very rarely said, but probably you also haven't rapped a lot.
Yeah,
Because people just haven't asked you to rap.
I've said it before, surprisingly, but it's not a frequent request.
Okay, well, Now is the moment. Legion, drop a beat.
Boom, boom,
No.
boom.
Now is not the moment. No, this is not happening.
Yeah.
I'm gonna disconnect.
That would be some wild deep lore. Banana does
I'm so happy
underground
Legion
rap
dropped
battles.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't rap anymore. You know, I can't do that anymore. There were some dark days, man.
Yes. I can't be sucked back into that. I got a job now. I can't
Get out. They keep pulling me back in.
That's how I lost my last job.
You know this, guys. You know this.
The dumbest channel lore imaginable.
That's how I'm gonna have to start
dark days.
in the next intro. It's like a rap legend, BananaHammockRepublic.
Oh, God. I hope we can't record next week so you have more time to forget about that.
I forget everything, I'm sure. But that's one I won't forget.
No. I'll be DMing Legion every day with a reminder. Well, how about then? Sign off this episode for us, not in a rap. I did the intro. We can have a banana sign off.
There you go.
You haven't got to rap it. You can just sign off.
And I'm already struggling to find the words.
But if you do want to rap it, we wouldn't be mad. Legion, drop a beat.
You would if I did rap. Legion, stop doing that. Stop doing that.
You can just speak normally over it. Speak normally over it.
Nobody wants that. I was genuinely going to try and bring us back to the actual topic, but if we feel like we've covered it with this nonsense that's happened for the last 20 minutes, then I guess we can dismount. So I think we've pretty handily covered the best and worst video game endings, clearly. Thank you everybody for joining us. Feel free to comment if you disagree with any of the stupid shit Com or Legion said. Feel free to like the video if you agree with all the cool things I said. And subscribe to the channel if you want more nonsense like this. If you feel up to it, feel free to join the Discord through the links in the description. And join us for another episode next week, where hopefully we talk about the actual topic. But I doubt it. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Oh, I should start recording. So, hold on.
You son of a bitch.